Let's bowl, let's rock and roll. Oh, God damn it, give me my Diet Coke. Ah! Oh, go on then, Lucas. Favourite Ron Swanson moment from Parks and Rec?
Potentially when he finds out about what the computer knows about him and just immediately charges it.
The gif that has been used so much on the internet. Like many actors who cut their teeth in the world of television, Nick Offerman will likely be forever synonymous with his breakout role, that of Ron Swanson. In fact, Offerman probably doesn't mind, given that he and Ron are so similar that the writers for the show kept accidentally coming up with character quirks that they both happen to share.
So Ron Swanson, accidentally seems to just be the best character in that show.
Oh, he is. He steals every single scene he's in. And Nick Offerman, I think he won several fucking Emmys for his role.
I fucking hope so.
Understandably so, but we need to talk about the fact that NBC originally didn't want to give him the role. And according to Offerman, he had to do endless screen tests for the character, despite the fact that the directors and the writers said, we don't want to get anybody else. Offerman is Ron. A sentence that, as we're about to discuss, was way more accurate than even they anticipated. But before that, though, like you said, your favourite Ron moment is just him spiking the computer into the dumpster.
I think it's more just the realisation of, oh no, they're tracking me.
No! I think that's season 1, isn't it? Or is it
season 1?
It's like an early season thing. I think it's where they start to settle into what the character of Ron was. Because season 1 of Parks and Rec, if you've not watched the show, you'd probably be alright to skip that. Because I
wouldn't say skip it, but it's definitely weaker than the rest.
And keep in mind that it gets better, because I recently rewatched Parks and Rec, and season 1 Ron is nothing like, Ron as he is later established. He plays games on his computer.
Yeah, I think it's a lot with most of the characters, I'd say, where season 1 doesn't fully settle into what they're going to end up being.
Yeah. Not to mention when Rob Lowe turns up. So the show turns to gold when that character turns up.
God, yeah.
He's so good. Oh, in the same vein, when Chris Pratt just joins the main cast.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Have you seen all the behind-the-scenes stuff about Chris Pratt as well, where the writers hated him?
No.
Because you know the line, oh, I've checked your symptoms on the computer, you might have network connectivity problems. That was improvised.
Oh.
And there's I think a director's commentary for that episode where they talk about the fact, the writers hate that line. Because Chris came up with it on the day and it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. It was better than anything they came up with. It's oh man, that's so bad. But to bring it back to Ron, I think my favourite moment is just when he eats the banana. And I contend that's the greatest piece of character acting ever seen on television. Just Ron just eating the banana it's so... Actually, let's not do that animation.
Yeah, maybe not.
Let's not get that
Tell you what, just do it sideways as well for us.
Let's not get that gif on the internet, shall we? I say as it's being made and uploaded. Anyway, just Ron eating the banana, so he's just so good. And he's smushes it into the burger.
So you said, the writers didn't realise how much Ron and Nick actually had in common?
Yes, and it got to the point where they realised, oh God, well, Offerman has such, a good window into this character's mentality that they just let him start writing his own lines. Because they thought, well, who's going to know what Ron's going to do in this situation better than the guy who is Ron? And I think Offerman himself has said, with the notable exception of our political ideologies, me and Ron are basically the same guy. Because Ron is a very staunch libertarian. And a lot of people who follow that ideology hold him up as a good example of it, despite the fact he's written to be a satire of it.
Yeah, and Nick Offerman's quite a liberal guy from what I can tell.
Oh, he's so fucking liberal. Yeah. He fucking loves that shit. And I think that's why they have a few lines in the show where he makes reference to the fact that, he's a staunch feminist and that, he respects strong women, which is why in the show they make him date and eventually marry the strongest woman of all, Xena. When I realised that Ron gets married to Xena, it's yeah! So cool.
The warrior princess.
The only man who could tame Xena is Ron. Oh God, Lucy Lawless, man. Still killing it at whatever age she is. Fucking you go, girl. I would. Anyway.
What things do Nick and Ron actually have in common then?
Well, a couple of the more obvious ones, that they have an interest in stereotypically manly things. It's woodworking and just eating meat. But more specific, very on-brand Ron things that Offerman has done include skipping the Emmys to go fishing, using his fame to endorse various brands of scotch, and writing a guide on how to best tackle a breakfast buffet so you can maximise your bacon intake.
Hell yeah.
Which, that sounds like a cup thing from an episode that Ron would do.
Yeah, when you say that sounds like something taken from the show, not from the man.
Yeah, that's Nick Offerman. That's something he actually published. He published the ad. oh, here's how you, like, demolish a breakfast buffet and maximise how much fucking meat you get. That sounds like, an offshoot of the Swanson Pyramid of Greatness.
It does, yeah.
It's so good. Right, so in that vein, what's your favourite just Ron food moment?
I think it's just like when they go to a strip club, Ron doesn't give a shit about the strippers, he's just there for the buffet.
That is a pretty strong one, where he talks about the fact, like when he's there, he goes, these kind of women are not for me, but a breakfast buffet, now I'm tempted. I think mine might be where he says, oh, this bowling alley has my favourite restaurant in town, and he turns around and he just says, hot dogs, burgers, and that's it. My favourite restaurant in town, meat. So good. And to move into the territory of the video's introduction, which is accidental similarities the writers discovered between Ron and Nick Offerman, we can talk about scotch. And do you happen to recall what Ron Swanson's favourite drink is?
It's like Lagavulin?
Yes, and that happens to be Nick Offerman's favourite brand of scotch as well. And when he saw that mentioned in a script, he assumed that, oh, the writers must have just done some research on me. Because I've talked about this at length in interviews I've done before, and it's like, no, they just picked it because it was the most earthy, manly scotch they could think of. And attributed to Ron, and Nick Offerman got the bottle and went, oh, this is my favourite brand. And I was like, what? How? So they're like, what? He's talked at length in interviews that I love this scotch, and assumed that the writers must have just done research on him. It's like, no. They just picked that one. It happened to be the exact brand that he loved.
It just fitted the character
perfectly. So much so I think, doesn't the character buy the brewery at the end of the season?
He does.
He just buys diversify your portfolio, just buy all the scotch. What a lifetime supply of all this scotch. Oh my God.
So what other kind of things that they share did they not know about?
Well, we have the fact that Nick Offerman is a highly competent woodworker and saxophonist. And with the latter being my personal favourite thing the writers didn't know about, because they created this alter ego for Ron, Duke Silver, an accomplished saxophonist, as a joke, thinking, what's the weirdest thing that Ron could be good at? And they told Nick Offerman about it, and Nick Offerman went, well, I can play the saxophone, so that's great.
And they're just what?
Exactly, what the fuck? Now, that alone is pretty funny, but Nick Offerman, being a bit of a prankster, didn't want anybody else to know this, so he kept that fact a secret up until the day of filming, waited till the moment he was required to pick up the saxophone, and then just started playing it amazingly, and everyone else was like, the fuck, did you know he could do that? Which I think is a very Duke Silver thing to do.
That's a really Duke Silver thing to do.
But at the same time as well, the point about Duke Silver is that you don't expect Ron Swanson to be a virtuoso saxophonist. At the same time, do you expect Nick Offerman to do that as well?
No, but of course he is. Of course, yeah.
There's another episode where Ron's teaching a self-defense class, and the director's like, man, you're really good at this. You're really getting into this role. Oh, well, I taught fight choreography for years. So you actually do know how to teach people self-defense. Yeah. And that also very funny. But according to Nick Offerman, he's also trained in traditional kabuki theatre. Which they had no clue about, and he tried to incorporate that into the episode, but people kept laughing too much, so he couldn't. He had to put it out.
That's kind of a shame. I'd love to have seen that.
But think about that as well. He's also trained in kabuki theatre.
Is there anything this man isn't trained in?
Think about it this way. You're a fan of the show, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
If there was a plot point in one show that just Ron Swanson is randomly just really good at kabuki theatre, that would have made complete sense, wouldn't it?
Completely, yeah.
So I wish they'd put that in.
But it would make complete sense in the fact that it makes no sense at all.
Because it's just so out of character for the character.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those weird things where him being a saxophonist doesn't make sense, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I love the alter ego of Duke Silver. He has 3 albums. It's what are they called now? Is it Smooth as Silver or something like that?
Oh, I can't even remember. I just love the fact that he's yeah, I have no trouble with women. Women are just all over me because of Duke Silver.
It's just that little gag, though, where he, this song goes out to my Duchess, and he points to Zenith.
Oh, yeah.
And that woman just leans in and goes, you're a lucky person. He goes, thank you. And then someone else leans in from the other side, I'm going to kill you. Oh, it turns out that, Aubrey Plaza's character, what's her name again?
April.
April's mum just has one of Ron's albums.
Oh, yeah. And that's how April finds out about it.
Oh, well, they're recording, was it 10,000 Candles in the Wind? Again, one of the best jokes on the show. It's just oh man, they told me to write a song 10,000 times better than Candle in the Wind. Hello, and this is 10,000 Candles in the Wind. No, it's Bye Bye Little Sebastian. That one. Yeah. Where they walk into the recording studio and just Duke Silver's on the wall.
And he's just like, oh God.
Gotta get rid of this shit.
So there is one other thing that Nick and Ron have both shared.
Yeah, and that is Megan Mullally, who plays in the show Ron's estranged wife, and in real life is just Nick Offerman's actual wife. Which is so fucking good. And apparently, Nick Offerman was so happy when, like, Megan got the role as Tammy in the show. Because obviously, now we can just really, really make people uncomfortable.
We can fucking go for this.
Because the point is that those characters have this, like, really intense sexual chemistry, but also hate each other.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, being married to Nick Offerman, Megan Mullally was well up for all this. So, do you know the scene in the show where they just, like, start getting on in the restaurant?
Oh, yeah.
According to Offerman, they got so into that, they ripped a table off the fucking wall. But they didn't tell anyone they were going to do it. So, do you know the reaction of all the diners as they're, like, pounding on the table, making out? That is genuine, because they didn't realise that Nick Offerman was going to rip the table off the wall while making fake love to his fake wife.
Holy shit.
And in the same vein, do you know where they run into the seedy motel and start stripping off? The directors didn't tell them to do that. They just talked about it in the car as they were driving for, the setups to the scene. They're like, wouldn't it be funny if we both just stripped off? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So when they actually rips her top off and they have to, like, really hastily censor it, that wasn't intended.
Oh, God.
They just thought, let's just fucking go for it.
Oh, man, that was magical.
Oh, God. What a great show. I love as well the caption I've got here, like the image I've got to show when they're ripping them off. Just the subtitle to say, oh God, yes, oh God, oh God. And I can't remember, is it Ron who says that or Tammy?
Probably both of them.
Both. So let's pull back the conversation a little bit away from just Ron specifically and just talk about Parks and Rec, the show. So any personal favourite moments from the show that you'd like to share with the folks at home and myself?
Potentially, again with Ron Swanson.
Okay.
When they have, like, the hamburger tasting contest, and is it Chris, the name Roblo's character?
Chris Traeger.
And it just blows his mind how nice meat is, and he's just like, oh,
he can't handle it. Which just, what's this? It's meat with salt and pepper in it, cooked. Have it with ketchup or whatever. I don't give a fuck.
And it's just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted.
I think mine is got to be just the running gag that Jerry's wife doesn't age.
Oh yeah.
Just like, man, Gail looks so good.
And then even when they do the time skip,
60 years into the future, they didn't put any old age makeup on the actress. She just shows up looking exactly the same. And then you look, man, Gail looks so great. She still looks so hot.
I also love the fact that they just mention, like, how hungry he is. Oh my God.
So I didn't even know if that man had the mumps because I was just astounded by the biggest penis I have ever seen. That is an oddly specific trope that happens in a lot of media. Doesn't it happen in Archer as well?
I've not seen Archer.
Okay,
so.
I forget. There's a character in that they make fun of, but it turns out he's got a massive schlonger.
Okay.
So you don't feel bad about getting made fun of. But just that thing is, oh man, Gail looks so good. Or just like the little gags about no matter what he makes, no matter how fantastic or impressive or amazing it is, they just like shit on it and throw it away.
Oh yeah, when he makes like the art masterpiece and they're like, this is trash. Come on.
He makes the perpetual motion machine. Yeah. Like he does that. That's the thing that happens in the show.
He actually does that.
But the other joke I have to give props to, because it makes me giggle when I think about it, is the cones of Dunshire.
Yeah.
Because it starts as just this throwaway gag. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a joke about how complex tabletop games are.
Yeah.
But then just later in the series, out of nowhere, just they're playing Cones of Dunshire.
Wait, what? That's my game!
So I invented that, and when he just wins, you forgot the most important part. It's about the cones. He's still with such intensity. So give that man an Emmy.
Oh.